when we are working with one student, we are not working with one individual. We are working with, I'll say, sets of people. One set would be parents, another would be extended family, the other set would be the community leaders, then there would be, let's say, friends, teachers, and in this data age, the biggest influencer or one of the big influencers right now is social media. So we are working with different influencers who have got their own motives and biases and vision for that young person. Then there are systemic biases, systemic barriers, because we try to focus more and more on marginalized communities. And what we have observed, I don't have data but anecdotal experience, the way our system has been working, uh, the students who come from marginalized communities, and the more marginalized they come, more marginalized backgrounds they come from, their confidence and articulation is lower and lower. So, as a teacher, as a mentor, when you engage with a kid, you always love the kid who engages with you more, who is responsive to you. But the more marginalized background students you work with, you have to push.
The Karta initiative is led by very dynamic leader Aparna Chaudhary. Karta works with young people who from Adivasi, Mahadalit, and other vulnerable tribal communities, studying in both Ekalavya and Navodaya schools in the hinterlands of India. It started out as an experiment to send a handful of these young people for higher education in some of the best institutions in India and around the world. It now reaches over 1,000 young people across 5 states. Karta supports them in going to premier universities in India, UK, Canada with 100% scholarship. The belief here is that as these young people, do well in life, they will pay forward and contribute back to building a better society, thereby squaring the circle.
Hi, Aparna. Thank you for joining me on Spare Change to Real Change. It's a series we've started to highlight the many amazing organizations that are doing amazing work across the country and hopefully inspire people to start their journey to giving. And we're talking to all of the organizations that he supported. I want to start, Aparna, by asking you about the birth of Karta.
So first of all, let me thank you, Sandhya, and also let me convey my thanks to Ravi Venkatesan. He has been very kind to us by extending his support to us. There was one stage zero in 2017 while this idea was being debated, discussed, and it got incubated by Tata Trusts, that there is a need to work with a particular age group of 14 to 25 years, which is an age group where young human beings are being pushed from the stage of adolescence to adulthood, and also a need to focus on this age group from underprivileged and marginalized communities, especially from rural areas and remote areas and difficult areas.
Tell me about the vision and the mission of Karta.
When we look at the representation of people from marginalized and underprivileged communities, either in the corporate sector or in the social sector or even in the public sector, the representation, especially at the decision making levels or at the positions of power and positions of influence, the representation is quite poor. So, the vision is that we support young people who become the leaders of their own communities, who are able to articulate the challenges of their own communities, of their own villages, of their own areas, and they are able to get into the positions of power, positions of influence, be it the corporate sector or the social sector, or let's say media, law, policy, and they propose solutions which are more in tune with the ground realities. So we want our young people to get into those kinds of positions through the route of quality higher education. So the vision here is to create a cadre of those young people from marginalized communities, from remote areas, for whom the access to quality higher education is very difficult, and probably they can't even dream of it. We have been focusing on most underserved areas. For example, let's take the area of Araria in Bihar, which is one of the most flood prone areas. Or let's take the areas of Baramulla or Anantnag in Kashmir Valley. We think Maharashtra and Karnataka are developed states. So let's go to the areas of Bir, of Parbani, of Gadchiroli, or let's go to Yadgir or Billari. Young people who come from Adivasi communities, young people who are coming from Dalit communities or socially marginalized communities, or Muslim students per se, or girl students, for whom there is a high challenge of mobility, because parents, they are not very comfortable sending the girls outside their own districts, outside their own areas. So we are trying to increase both the agency and mobility of these young people who can make informed choices in terms of either the career choices or life choices, and and get in and make optimal career decisions. They get into the best places, be in India or abroad. Our students, they get into places like Ashoka or Plaksha, Azim Premji University, or places like Oxford, University College London, Edinburgh University. In Canada, our students are getting into University of Toronto, Queen's, McGill, and Western University.
That's amazing, Aparna. So basically, what you're doing is you're enabling equal opportunity for young people from marginalized communities who we may not even realize when we go on with our day to day life that there are thousands and millions of them who just don't even have a chance of a level playing field. What is the short term impact you've been able to create with Karta?
So at this point of time, we are supporting 50 young students in various universities like Azim Premji University, Flame, Plaksha, Edinburgh, University of Toronto, Queen's, McGill. And this year, we are planning to support a new cohort of 100 students, out of which 10 are going abroad and 90 are going to get into the most premium Indian universities. So this has been, I'll say, the most tangible impact. In terms of intangibles, I'll say my team gets calls from areas like Araria or Supol or Katihar or Haveri, or even let's say Doda or Anantnag, saying, hey, why don't you come and work with us in our schools also? So we are able to generate hope.
Aparna, what have been the biggest challenges as an organization that Karta has faced in its mission?
There are multiple level of challenges, Sandhya. The first challenge that I'll say is with parents. So a young person who is coming from a rural area, when we are working with one student, we are not working with one individual. We are working with, I'll say, sets of people. One set would be parents, another would be extended family, the other set would be the community leaders, then there would be, let's say, friends, teachers, and in this data age, the biggest influencer, or one of the big influencers right now, is social media. So we are working with different influencers who have got their own motives and biases and vision for that young person. Then there are systemic biases, systemic barriers, because we try to focus more and more on marginalized communities. And what we have observed, I don't have data but anecdotal experience, the way our system has been working, the students who come from marginalized communities, and the more marginalized they come, more marginalized backgrounds they come from, their confidence and articulation is lower and lower. So as a teacher, as a mentor, when you engage with a kid, you always love the kid who engages with you more, who is responsive to you. But the more marginalized background students you work with, you have to push. And then there is a question of agency, creating agency versus pushing. So where do you draw the line? How much do you push? How much do you say, no, now this is the agency of this young person, let this young person make a choice? These are systemic challenges. Then there are challenges around, I will say, assessment. Unfortunately, the way students are assessed to get through the entrance processes of the universities are very straitjacketed. We are trying to have conversations with academicians saying a young person who is coming from, let's say, an urban elite school, and a young person who is coming from, let's say, a government school in Araria or a government school in Anantnag or Baramulla or Bir, how can you have a same lens of assessment for these two young people? We have to have more holistic kind of assessment lenses, or we have to develop those lenses to assess young people who come from difficult areas, who come from marginalized communities.
So the challenges are at multiple levels because it is a complex problem. What's the kind of impact you hope to make in 5 years?
In the next 5 years, we would like to create a cadre of at least 500 such young people who are able to get into these premier universities. But however, we also feel that it's a very intensive approach, and we might not be able to, let's say, do this kind of intensive work with millions of students. So what we are trying to do is we also want to reach out to at least 1 lakh students in next 5 years who can have access to, who can have free access to curated, validated, and updated information and the resources which are needed to transition from school to university, and also those kind of resources which are needed for a young person to be employable after the university. So the vision is to reach out to at least 1 lakh students in next 5 years.
In a way, you want to be able to create an asset light approach that helps you reach more people, because right now a lot of your efforts are intense.
You have rightly said it, Sandhya. So what we have done internally, we have, and this is work in progress, we are developing a tech platform. It's called Karta Connect. And through this Karta Connect, we are saying that we are putting up all curated information, and it's all free, and it's already been piloted with 3,500 students, and blessings of Ministry of Education and Navodaya Vidyalaya Samiti, our platform has already been uploaded on 70,000 tablets, which have been distributed to students across 600 schools.
I hope everyone that's listening today reaches out and offers support, because what you're doing is commendable. Thank you for joining Spare Change to Real Change.
Thank you, Sandhya.